In this video, we're going to look at different models of lobbying and influence. When you hear the term lobbying, what is it we're talking about? Well, lobbying is the process of trying to influence public policy. You're trying to influence a government decision, maybe the outcome of a particular law, or certain regulations. And this can be done on behalf of corporations that might try and influence the passing of legislation, or it could be citizens groups that are trying to ensure that their preferred policies get enacted. I'm going to look at some different ways of understanding that. In political science, we like to use models and analogies to understand things. And there are two common models of trying to understand the politics of lobbying and influence. And we call those the iron triangle and the revolving door. Basically, what those two approaches are doing is different ways of trying to understand the relationships between the different actors involved, the government institutions, and the incentives that are part of this process. First, we'll look at the iron triangle. And this idea comes from economist James Buchanan, who's very much in the public choice domain of economics and political science. And this model tries to understand how different actors all share the same interest. There are people that pass laws, the legislators. There are people that implement the laws and oversee industry in the federal bureaucracy. And then there are interest groups in society that have their own goals they want to see. Pressure groups. These are the lobbyists. These could be firms, these could be industry groups, or they could be citizen groups. The idea is that they want something done. They want to try and influence the direction of government policy. They want to lower taxes, lower regulations, maybe even raise regulations. They will try and do that by convincing people in the government to do what they want. Now, members of the bureaucracy, these might include people like cabinet officials, deputy ministers, agency directors. Obviously, they want to see their influence grow within the government. They want to see their budgets grow, because then they're more important in relative terms, but they also want to see that their staff grows as well. And so they have an interest in seeing their influence expand. If you are an elected member of the government, likewise, you have some incentives. You have short-term incentives, the idea that you want to seek re-election, and then longer-term incentives, such as a post-political career. Now, in the short term, you need money to run for re-election, and you will often have to solicit donations from individuals and corporations. Now, there can be a quid pro quo. If you do what a lobbyist group wants you to do, they might be inclined to donate to your campaign. And so you can see a mutual exchange of favors there. This relationship is, you can see the triangular nature of this, is the idea that all parties want the same thing. And they need to use each other in order to achieve their goals. So legislators want to get reelected. They need help from pressure groups. Pressure groups want their policies implemented. They need to influence bureaucrats and legislators. People in the government want to see their influence expand. So they want to see their priorities get reflected in the law, and they also want to work closely with industry. All of these groups need each other in some way to achieve their goals. Now, there's one group that isn't involved in the triangle, and that's something that Buchanan talks about, is the taxpayer. The taxpayer kind of gets left out of this process. It's the influential members of the pressure groups, the bureaucracy, and government officials that are able to get what they want based on these mutually beneficial relationships. Very similar approach to looking at this is known as the revolving door perspective. Similar, we have members of the government, the elected government, the political state, but also the administrative state, the people that implement regulations and oversee industry, and firms on the other side. These are people that want to see something. They want to lobby the government to see their goals met. Now, of course, you can see that there are maybe some natural areas where the groups might align and they might have shared expertise. For example, if the federal bureaucracy needs to hire some experts and regulators, they could go to industry to hire those people. And likewise, people in industry might want to hire people with expertise from the government to ensure that they can get favorable treatment over regulations. So there's a natural back and forth there in terms of the same pool of talent that ends up working in both places. On the political side, it's not uncommon for business leaders to run for office. And in doing so, maybe at the end of their career, they find a home for their expertise back in industry. And so you get this circular dynamic where people in the same talent pool, the same expertise, end up moving to government employment and then back to industry. And that is called the revolving door. And again, the concern is that people in the government end up aligning their interest with firms and lobbyists in the private sector, and they all want the same thing. They are able to work together to further their mutual goals, with the taxpayer, of course, being left out of this. The key point here is that these are clientele relationships. It's based on this mutually beneficial exchanges designed around reciprocal interests. All parties want the same thing, or at least have shared goals, and they need each other to achieve those goals. Just to recap, when we're trying to understand lobbying and influence, two primary ways of doing that. We have the iron triangle model and the revolving door model. Both of those are based around this idea of elite accommodation, that a select group of people that come from industry and the highest levels of government, typically very educated and connected, they all occupy positions of influence in the political process. They are able to work together to advance their shared goals. It's sort of an idea of mutual benefit and incentives that are aligned. They're able to do this because the costs are relatively small and spread out across a large group of people, the taxpayers. That's part of the reason why lobbying is so effective, because the benefit is concentrated in a few actors while the costs are spread out among the entire population.